At one point, she told her own mother, when you feel pain, you have to keep quiet and offer it to Jesus for a sinner. Jesus suffered so much for us, but he hadn't committed any sin. He was God. How could we complain? We who are sinners and always offend them. Familia, how's everyone doing? We are walking towards a nice journey along with the saints and those who live holy lives. And I pray that this series is helping you out and meeting some new faces of the church. So stay tuned for the rest of the videos in the series. Let's get right into it. If this is your first time here, my name is Edwin and this is Earthly Links. Today's gospel inspiration comes to us from 1 John chapter 3 verses 18 to 20. Children, let us love not in word or speech, but in deed and truth. Now this is how we shall know that we belong to the truth and reassure our hearts before Him in whatever our hearts condemn. For God is greater than our hearts and knows everything. Today's first Venerable is Venerable Bruno Lanteri. He was born on May 12, 1759 in Cueno, Piedmont. An unfortunate event during his young life would influence him greatly throughout his life. At the death of Lanteri's mother in 1783, his father presented the 4-year-old boy to a statue of Mother Mary in their parish and told him, "She is your mother now." After that moment, Bruno would foster and maintain a deep and strong devotion to Mother Mary. He would express this love to his colleagues and disciples, going so far as to declare that the religious institute he founded was principally the work of Mary and not his own. He was ordained a Catholic priest and founded the religious congregation of the Oblates of the Virgin Mary in the early 19th century. A man by the name of Disbach, who was a former Jesuit, would introduce Lanteri to the spiritual patrimony of Saint Ignatius of Loyola, and in particularly his spiritual exercises. And in this series of guided meditations through which one becomes more attentive to the movements of the heart, or we call it discernment, and the accompanying rules for adapting them to individuals' particularly spiritual needs, Lanteri recognized a powerful instrument for pastoral ministry, especially for conversion, and he would apply them continuously in his own prayer life and would recommend them to others. He would also establish groups of people whom he trained to do the same. This was fruitful because it would lead to the formation of the priestly residence and the oblates of the Virgin Mary. His spiritual life and work centered on the spiritual exercises of Saint Ignatius of Loyola. He was also renowned for challenging Jansenism by distributing books that promoted the moral theology of Saint Alphonsus Liguori, as well as establishing societies to continue this work. And just for some context here, Jansenism was a Catholic, heretical, theological movement primarily located in France that emphasized original sin, human depravity, the necessity of divine grace, and predestination. Lanteri worked to turn the tide of Jansenism, which became popular in Europe in the later centuries, and retained many adherents during this time. Even though it was formally condemned by the Catholic Church, he himself held Jansenistic tenets at a very young age, but through the influence of the Jesuit Disbach, he encountered the moral theology of Alphonsus Liguori, and he would eventually reject Jansenism. Man, I didn't even know about this one, to be honest with you. Lanteri's cause for canonization was started in 1920, and he was declared venerable by Pope Paul VI in 1965. Venerable Antonietta Meo is our second venerable of the day. She was born on December 15, 1930 in Rome, Italy. And the following described her. She was nicknamed Nenolina. She attended Catholic schools and stood out. She was very charismatic. She was kind. She stood out because of her personal charm, had a great sense of humor, and the joyousness of her personality. She was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, an aggressive form of bone cancer, at the age of 5 after she fell and injured her knee, and the injury didn't heal. She would have her leg amputated, and while this was a difficult moment, she would bear the moment quote unquote cheerfully. Now, Catholic theologians who have studied her life have called her a mystic because at 6 years old, she started writing extraordinary letters to Jesus Christ in the last moments of her life that displayed an understanding that went beyond a child of her age. Portion of the letters read, "Dear baby Jesus, you are holy, you are good." And then another one, "Help me, grant me your grace and give me back my leg. And if you don't want to, then may your will be done." She wrote poems and letters to herself and left each at her crucifix. Meo saw the loss of her leg as a sacrifice to Jesus and offered it up for the conversion of sinners. "I am very happy that Jesus gave me this problem so that I may be his dearest one." At one point, she told her own mother, "When you feel pain, you have to keep quiet and offer it to Jesus for a sinner." Jesus suffered so much for us, but he hadn't committed any sin. He was God. How could we complain? We who are sinners and always offend them. She was baptized, made her first confession, was confirmed, and made her first communion before her death. She also received the last rites in June 1937. After Meo's death, her mother had a vision of Antonietta in a glorified state that reassured her that she was now in heaven. Pope Benedict XVI approved the decree on December 17, 2007, 70 years after her death, praising the girl's heroic virtues and giving approval for the process to begin and to declare her a saint. Due to her age, she may become the youngest person ever canonized by the Catholic Church. So, prayers, keep praying, family. Today's last venerable is Pierre Toussaint. He was born on June 27, 1766 in St. Mark and now Haiti. Pierre Toussaint was born into slavery. It is known that his maternal great-grandmother, Tonette, had been born in Africa, where she was sold into slavery and then brought over to Haiti. He would be raised as a Catholic. And as a young child, Pierre would be educated by the Berard family's tutor. In 1787, the Berard family would leave the island, bring him along to New York City. When they arrived in New York, Berard had Pierre apprenticed to one of New York's leading hairdressers. Berard returned to Haiti to see his property, but he died in Haiti of pleurisy. Pierre, who was becoming increasingly successful as a hairdresser in New York, voluntarily took on the support of Madame Berard. He kept much of his earnings from being hired. Madame Berard eventually remarried, and years later, on her deathbed, she actually made her husband promise to free Pierre from slavery. As a very popular hairdresser among the upper echelon of New York society, Toussaint earned very good living, and he saved his money and paid for his sister's freedom, and he would be freed also at the age of 45. Together, the Toussaints began a career of charity among the poor of New York City, often taking baked goods to the children of the orphan asylum and donating money to its operations. They also helped raise money to build a new Roman Catholic church in New York, which became the old St. Patrick's Cathedral on Mulberry Street. He was a benefactor of the first New York City Catholic school for black children at St. Vincent de Paul on Canal Street. At his death, his documents included records of his many charitable gifts to Catholic and other institutions. His character was lauded by friends and acquaintances as he was one of the leading black New Yorkers of his day. After the formal approval by the Holy See of the cause for Toussaint's canonization, his grave was located and identified. His remains were transferred over to the crypt of St. Patrick's Cathedral on Fifth Avenue, which serves as the seat of the Archbishop of New York City. Toussaint became the first layman to be honored by burial in the crypt below the main altar of St. Patrick's Cathedral on Fifth Avenue. The crypt is normally reserved for bishops of the Archdiocese of New York. In 1996, Toussaint was declared a venerable by St. Pope John Paul II. Stay tuned as we continue this list of venerables. Question of the week: what is your current goal outlook? Let me know in the comment sections down below. Again, this week, go and check out Duran Design and A Catholic in Brooklyn. The link for their websites and pages are down below. Make sure you stop by and check out all the goodies that they have and support. Prayer life with consistency builds faith. Remember that. Stay blessed. God bless. Hey, ¿cómo están? Make sure you all check out these other videos over here and hit the subscribe button over here. Stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next video.